latest top tips, reviews and advice, please subscribe below.
Hello and welcome to Attwoolls Outdoors with me, Mike. Today I'm going to give you guys a bit of a review video on a brand new tent from Dometic. So with me today, I've got the Dometic Rarotonga 601 Redux tent. A bit of a mouthful, admittedly. So Dometic is necessary as the brand. It was formerly known as Camper and obviously moved into the sort of tent market and segregated its many tents that it had to sort of their high end and they're sort of more price orientated. The Rarotonga is the name of the actual tent and its design. So we see the Rarotonga in the normal range, but this Rarotonga is a little bit different. So you've got almost like a 4-zone section. You've got sort of storage, sleeping, living, and then an open canopy. 601 refers to the size itself, so it's a 6-man. They also do a 401 size as well, which we've done a separate review video for, which you can also check out. And then the Redux, more importantly, refers to the fact that this product is made from plastic bottles, recycled. So everything about it is kind of recycled, which is a real sort of massive plus point. And it's sort of Dometic's stepping point into that sort of better eco kind of thing, which is kind of where we want camping to really go, have that full cycle and reuse waste plastic. So that for me is a really nice big benefit. What they've kind of managed to do in the process of doing that is what you take is a normal plastic bottle, you basically kind of make it into chips, the chips get melted down, spun into a yarn or extruded into a yarn, then from that it gets woven into the tent fabric and voila, we have a tent. All but a few more bits to involve there. So that's kind of the idea of that. Now about 10 bottles will do about 1 square meter of a tent. So in the entire tent we actually have 285 bottles in the 601 size. So it's actually not a lot of bottles for a lot of tent, in my opinion. So it's a really quite nice concept and hopefully something we'll see more and more from different manufacturers. Basically Dometic in their manner have always gone to the next level. So they've actually created a complete product with kind of that sort of eco story. Whereas, so everything from the fly sheet, the mesh, the ground sheet, the inner tents is all kind of made from that point. Whereas maybe other brands might just do the fly sheet. They have definitely took a different spin on it and really gone the full length to it, but still keeping that kind of Dometic theme of lots of features and great spec throughout the tent, which we'll kind of go through now. So we've got no PVC anywhere in the tent, which is brilliant. So it means you've got great sort of ventilation points, but no sort of harmful, and it helps to necessarily reduce the overall heat in the actual tent as well. So great airflow in, but then we've got a sort of a weather protection on the inside, i.e. the curtains that roll up, and that's your main blocker against kind of the weather as well. One thing I do like about this actually is in test today, it's about 32 degrees, and I went in a polycotton, I went in its counterpart in the normal Rarotonga range, and it was amazing to see how kind of close the Redux with all the mesh sides was to that polycotton version. Definitely the polycotton was a little bit cooler, but in comparison, it was quite interesting, certainly on a very warm day, how cool it was, certainly in comparison to the normal Rarotonga. So that's, I think, for me, is a great thing to look at. We've got loads of mesh obviously located around this, it's great for circulation of air. When you want that kind of privacy curtain as such, we've got low level ventilation points down here, as we have with the normal kind of Rarotonga, just to allow the airflow when you've got that weather protection everywhere. Really nice fabrics, I think it's about 150D, and actually in terms of the colour, I think I prefer it in many ways to that kind of green. It's meant to be grey, but I get little tinges of blue. It depends on kind of what also the light's doing as well. It does work really nicely. Loads of features built into it as we come to expect. So we've got simple things like color coordinated pegging points. So you peg the main 4 points up, which are color coordinated in orange. Then you do the rest of the tent from there. You've got webbing straps that basically peg at the bottom from one point. So it pegs the base as well as the guide point as well. And you can easily adjust it nice and neatly. From a pitching point of view, you can check out our own Attwoolls pitching and packing video. I think it took me on my own to do the 601 size around about sort of 10-11 minutes. The 401 was about 8. And we've done a separate almost tutorial video about how you'd put up the tent as well if you want to check that out. Because it's quick and easy to pitch, there's no reason why you couldn't take this away for a weekend, let alone sort of a longer spell if you really wanted to. And it all packs down into one nice sort of bag with sort of carry bag to handle it as well. Interesting in terms of the design, a bit different to what you come to see. Normally very vertical sidewalls to help increase and maximize your internal space. So it means that furniture can push right up to the edge, meaning you utilize more area in size. Like I say, the 601's around about 440 wide. The 301, I believe, 401's around about 3 meters 10, 3 meters 20-ish. So you can pick and choose the width. It's the finer details again. Like I said, it's things like you get a high pressured downdraft pump included with it, which is much better than what you probably typically see on the marketplace. And then you've got a nice pressure gauge as well, so you can monitor the pressure. It runs with the supersized beams and slightly higher pressure than you would have come to expect probably with other tents. So you're on about 10 psi is the recommendation for the Rarotongas or the Dometic tents in general, just to give that sort of very different structure a bit more structure, well, a bit more beef to it. So that works really quite nicely as well. I would probably recommend, certainly for the 601 size, the electric gale pump, just to kind of make you sure you get to that pressure accurately. With the downdraft pump that you get supplied, because it's a one-way valve, you find the dial will flick up and down. It's only if you do a very slow downward stroke that you get a bit more of an indication of what it's at. So, and certainly for the volume, for me, I think it's worth buying that electric pump, certainly for this kind of size. But have a go first and then see if you need it at a later date. The valves are all done individually, as you can see from our pitching video, and you've got small little things like poppers that access the inflation deflation point a lot simpler, a bit easier, and then you can quite easily tidy and tuck it away so it's not sort of flapping around in the wind. Big mesh panels, and actually on the front section here we've got zip curtains in the front section, which is something you don't find on a normal Rarotonga, so that also is a benefit over the top of that. We've got a side door and a front door, so you can either enter through the front or the side, and again mesh built into both of this. When you want to get that kind of rain protection on the side, we've got little clips which retains the door, so again it's a really nice thing that you can quite easily overexpand it, clip it and tension it as you want. So that's located everywhere where you've got a kind of a toggle point as well. And even the zip puller is like an oversized kind of Toblerone, so it's easier with gloves or when it's wet to locate where you go to. So that zips up nice and neatly. There's a rear storage section. We've got an aluminium pole located at the back as well, just to increase that height. So it means that camp beds and things that will fit in easier, as we'll come to see later on. And there's webbing storm straps not only located on the side, but also on the front and the back. So you get really great tension into it. And there's a really nice big mesh vent at the back as well. As we swing round to kind of the front, there's a zip located on the whole front of the actual tent as well, and what you're going to use is the accessories for the normal Rarotonga on here. They haven't quite got to the production level where they can actually make, due to minimum numbers, accessories to the front of it, so that's why you can use the Rarotonga ones for the time being. Works really nicely. So you've got option of a front mesh vestibule, a normal solid vestibule with doors and so forth, or even a canopy to elongate it if you really wanted to. We've talked about obviously the mesh, the ability to enclose the front, and that's the only option you can, well, close the sides when you've got the front in there, so you can actually hide all your bits. Now you've got two nice big mesh windows in the front here, and obviously your centralized door. The joys of the mesh windows here is actually because you've got rain cover here, even when it's raining you can still have that airflow in and get that visibility out as well. The big mesh door here works really nicely, so it's again that complete bug-free barrier against anything that goes on inside. Still got additional webbing straps to get that tension nice and neatly from there. And in fact, let's talk for a few more features about the Rarotonga Redux on the inside and get the feel of it a bit better. So now we kind of swung the camera around, you kind of get a bit more of a feel for certainly the sheer sort of width in here as well. There's also in terms of the actual internal headroom height. So I'm being about 6'2". To be fair, I can probably just about stand up in the corners. It's a little bit of a stoop for me, but it's almost a very kind of low profile. But it's a great way of actually, like I said, having that maximising your space internally. Good sort of canopy depth, you know, happily put sort of cooking unit quite nice and neatly in here, and there's a ground sheet that does come supplied included for this front section as well. But it's definitely worth looking at things like the footprint and the carpet to kind of accommodate the actual tent itself. And of course we do package deals and those sort of things. The front door opens up nice and neatly, obviously that mesh front door there, or finally you got your normal door as well to seal it up when you want to go away. Vent is located at the top here as well to help with that airflow generally. And again, when we open that mesh door up, we can obviously roll that back nice and neatly, or scruffily as I'm doing, clip it back so it's kind of out the way. The entrance section, we've got the kind of this lip that comes up and down and velcros to the main body as well. So it means you can have a trip hazard if you want to, or seal against the weather quite nice and neatly. And again, it sort of kind of toggles up to a certain extent. The windows throughout, wherever you see, you've got these obviously mesh windows. When you want to get that sort of level of privacy and also security against the weather from the outside, you can just zip it up so you can go almost halfway, or of course fully up to the top, as you can see there. And when you're done with them, all you do is you carefully, he says, roll it down, and there's again a little popper for a retainer to keep it nice and neat and not all over the floor. Interestingly enough, you've actually got a Oxford polyester ground sheet in here, so it's a kind of a top kind of material rather than what we normally see like a polyethylene ground sheet. So it's got a different kind of feel to it, to be fair, in it. And certainly when you pack it away, I think actually it probably reduces the pack size a little bit and the weight maybe a fraction. Just maybe it's just in terms of, it's no worse in terms of structurally, but it's a different kind of feel into probably what we're used to now with modern day tents. Like I say, it's those key features, things like a hanging point for a lantern, and even that is like a carabiner clip. So it's again very detailed kind of inputs, and not only in the central section, but in the front section, in the canopy section. So every single point has got a hanging point for a lantern. You also got these little poppers and webbing points, so you can bring the cables down to whichever side you wanted to. You've got a couple of entry points as well for the mains hookups. You can either go from the front over there, or on to the side, or behind the bedroom as such. You can accommodate the, either side. So you can accommodate the cable quite happily depending on where it's coming from or where you're set up. We've got storage pockets built into the actual tent here as well, so we can declutter the main body and again maximise your living area if need be. A really kind of smart little palmet as well. That's going to help to try and hide what's going on behind it to a certain extent. And there's additional kind of braces beam at the back as well, just to kind of keep that back section a bit tauter in many ways. Other things to mention, you've got Velcro along the top here, so what you can do is actually use the sort of saber lights and the flexible ones, and Velcro is in so it shines light directly down, and you can run up to 3 off one single socket. The bedroom section got a really nice dark fabric as well. It's set up in kind of an equal split with a zip divider between the sections, so you can open that up fully if you really wanted to. But when you enclose yourself in here, it's quite nice and dark. But failing that, if you wanted to, there's a front mesh section so you can get a light in it if you see you need to. Right at the back, we've got a low-level ventilation back the whole way, and there's also a rear door into that storage section at the back, which means you can declutter your main body of your tent, and again, maximising, which is an awful lot, your main living area as a living area rather than a clutter area as well. But so let's pick up the camera, have a feel inside the tent, and just probably get a bit more details on those features that I've mentioned so far. So I've zipped that one up there, like I said, in the canopy section, so you can see obviously you get great level of privacy, but when you come inside, you've got that sort of mesh feel, so you can sort of see all the way around the campsite and have airflow quite nice and neatly. We said with the actual points here, we've got the hanging point for lantern, which like I said is the carabiner, and the Velcro tabs run all the way along the beams quite nice and neatly to low level ventilation. That's the bag you see there as well, so it's a good sized bag right next to the cable entry points on the front, and then the ones on the side by the mesh points. In kind of the darker sort of bedroom sections, we've got also storage pockets built into the side of the bedrooms, and you can see how kind of dark the fabric is. It's a nice addition. There's your rear sort of storage section, so you can basically put all your clutter or your clothes necessarily in here, so you can get changed in the morning before heading out. And you can see kind of how it steps back in many ways to create that kind of area, so I can sort of physically stand up myself, but you can shut the rear door off. So also means things like camp beds in theory could kind of sort of come out a bit further and finish into that storage section if you want to leave that fully open as well. But you can probably appreciate a bit more the size of the tent itself. But kind of as we come out and have a little full-on look round it. So it's really, I do really like the colour of it, to be fair, and like almost in this light now it looks a little bit, I wouldn't say brown, but definitely more of grey, like a slate grey, I think is what it calls. You've also, like I said, that's a little pole at the back, so you can see how kind of the back section works. So it gives you that extra internal height. The big mesh vent at the back, it's got the cover. You've got a folding point in here as well, so basically the orange goes to orange. As I said previously in other videos, personally I think it's a bit pointless because it's not how we would necessarily pack away tents, but it's a nice thought at least anyway, I believe. So yeah, we'll see how it's almost like a darkish blue at the back, but it's not. It's like it's thinking that slate grey. So it's interesting to see kind of how it looks. But if you want a comparison to say like the green versions, you can kind of see that there, how that looks in comparison. So I think for me, I almost prefer the slate. I'm going to call it slate as a as an alternative. But for more information, by all means check the link below this video. It'll take you straight through our website where we've got things like the pack sizes, pack weights, floor dimensions, all the features itemized and listed for you as well as package deals and other things that we kind of offer and option extras you can get for this model. So that's definitely worth a look. But overall, I love the concept of actually Dometic stepping into that kind of eco world. It's definitely much, we need to see it more across certain UK brands. But you've got, you maybe pay a little bit more extra, you pay a little bit extra for it, but you've got some definitive differences in terms of the sheer amount of mesh in here, the covers for the front, the material itself, so there's a lot more. Okay, so it's maybe a little bit more money, but you can physically see where that cost is going. And then on top of that, as a bonus, you got that kind of recycled story as well. So yeah, I think for me, it's a nice tent. Certainly one would look to have in the indoor showroom in some method or some form. So it'd be worth having a look and almost feeling the texture of the fabric in comparison to a normal fabric as well, because in this particular model, it does feel a little bit different. But yeah, that's kind of our video review on the brand new Dometic Rarotonga Redux in the 601 size.